Since you're on 370 and I was going to come to it, it's probably one of your most scrutinized, debated judgments, and it's there in black and white, so I'm not going to get into the weeds of the verdict. But the one key criticism, and I remember interviewing Fali Nariman just, I guess, a few months before he died, why didn't the Supreme Court tackle the question of whether a state can be converted to a union territory? Right? I'm not getting into all of the other things. I think it's done and dusted and, the abrogation is here to stay. But just on a point of law, do you feel the Supreme Court ducked that?
No, not at all. Sometimes, Barkha, deciding or not deciding an issue is an act of constitutional statesmanship. In this case, the government of India told us that we are going to restore statehood. We asked them, what's the position of the government? We were critical on this issue that elections have to be held at the earliest. All of us were very clear that elections have to be held at the earliest, and the democratic process in Jammu and Kashmir has to be set in motion.
Yeah.
We asked the Solicitor General to take instructions. He said, I'll have to take instructions at the highest level, quote unquote. He came back to us the next day and said that I have instructions on 2 counts. 1, elections would be held at the earliest. And 2, he said, statehood would be restored. On elections, we said we want a time frame. We said 30th September, I believe, as a time frame, and elections were held. The democratic process was restored. An elected government has come into place, not of the same party as at the center. So we were very concerned about the fact, and we were very clear about the fact that democracy has to be restored. Insofar as statehood is concerned, the Government of India, again, the Solicitor General, speaking on behalf of the Government of India, said that instructions were that statehood would be restored at the earliest possible point of time. Now, as courts, you're also conscious, Barkha, of the fact that Jammu and Kashmir is not, or was not at that point of time,
any other state.
Was not any other state. Now, we were asked, and I've been reading some of the comments in the media, what binds the Government of India to the statement which was made by the Solicitor General? Well, my answer is very simple. Constitutional governance does not proceed in an atmosphere of distrust. If you can't trust the government's law officer when he takes instructions at the highest level, whom do you trust? Maybe politics, as it is unfolding today, does not proceed on trust, but constitutional governance can't proceed on a presumption of mistrust. So in a situation like this, where the Government of India says that we are going to restore statehood at the earliest, the court took the view that we'll accept that statement. On elections, which are fundamental to democracy, we will ensure that elections are held within a time frame. Second, interestingly, I'll tell you only one thing, that for all the criticism of the court, Article 3 of the Constitution is not as clear as you would have it imagine. You would imagine it to be. Article, can I just show you a very interesting part?
Please. You also have the red covered Constitution that has become such a political metaphor today. I don't imply that you're carrying it for that reason.
No.
Where does one get this from, by the way, this red wala?
This was actually presented to me by the...
not by Rahul Gandhi.
No, by Gopal, by Gopal Shankar Narayan. I have an inscription by him over here. And, I've, it's been part of my library. Article 3A says, Parliament may by law, A, form a new state by separation of territory from any state, or by uniting 2 or more states or part of states, or by uniting any territory to a part of any state. Right? That's Article
But Parliament?
Parliament may by law.
Yeah.
Right? Now, explanation 1. In this article, in clauses A to E, state includes a union territory. Now, this provision has not been noticed in the media. But in the proviso, state does not include a union territory. That is, whose opinion do you take? Explanation 2. The power conferred on Parliament by Clause A includes the power to form a new state or union territory by uniting a part of any state or union territory to any other state or union territory.
So Parliament does have the capacity to do this.
That's right. Second, Barkha, another very important aspect which perhaps has been missed in much of the comment in the media is that the Constitution as it was originally framed contains Article 356. Now, once a proclamation is issued by the President under Article 356, Article 356 1A postulates that all the powers of the legislature of a state shall be vested in Parliament. In other words, all the constitutional powers which belong to a state legislature upon a proclamation under Article 356(1) vest in Parliament. They are capable of being discharged by Parliament. Now, this is the provision of the Constitution, the original Constitution.
So you're saying tomorrow the Parliament could technically decide that, I don't know, Kerala is a union territory?
No, I'll tell you one thing. Sometimes constitutional statesmanship lies in allowing things to be where they are, and we accepted the assurance of the union government that they will restore statehood and that the conversion to the status of a union territory was not intended to be a long-lasting solution, but it would be restored at the earliest possible point of time.
In other words, you're actually saying that the statesmanship perhaps lay in not getting technical, because if you'd got technical, the Constitution does have a provision that Parliament can do this.
Our Constitution, Barkha, has given very wide powers to Parliament.
That's right.
Because the Constitution was framed at a time when there was fear of the survival of the Union itself.
Yeah.
You know, you have to understand the political, the historical ethos, the historical circumstances undergirding the adoption of the Constitution. So our Constitution, when it was framed with an emphasis on a strong center. And the object of creating a strong center was to ensure that the Union would be preserved. Particularly in the context of what had happened immediately before the framing of the Constitution, partition, and the whole history of the freedom struggle. Now, if you have this Constitution, which we have given to ourselves, and it's a Constitution which has remarkably stood the test of time, it's also important for courts as constitutional authorities to decide some questions, at other times to allow for things to be as they are and accept a solution which would ensure, in this case, the restoration of statehood.
Yeah.
So the fact that statehood has to be restored is now an accepted position, because that is what has been recorded in the judgment of the Supreme Court.
I understand.
Having said that, there were reasons perhaps which may have weighed with the court to accept the statement of the Union of India. As I said, Jammu and Kashmir is like no other state. We have a history of cross-border terrorism. And I think the fact that democracy has been restored in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, that you have an ordered transfer of power to an elected state, into an elected government in Jammu and Kashmir, is itself an indicator of the constitutional process having taken fruit. And hopefully that's part of the continuum to eventual restoration of statehood.